Okay, it says we're streaming live on Facebook. It is Monday, whatever it is, June the 7th today.
7th. Yep.
Okay, it looks like it came up. We got to switch to public. I can hear sounds coming out. That's a good sign. Just make sure we're broadcasting. And we are. Okay, so we have Paul, which is me, and we got Anya, which is the smiling face on the right, I guess. We were just having a little lowdown on the weekend energies.
Fucking insane.
Yeah, well, we entitled this live as well, where's the exact words that I put? It says roundtable on reality. What is success as a light worker? And it's kind of come up for both Anya and I pretty heavy over this weekend. Maybe do you want to describe what you saw of yourself over the weekend, and then I'll build on it from there?
Sure. Yeah. Well, mine is the thing that I was struggling with was just low self-worth coming into the mix. Like, oh my God, did I make a mistake? Did I not listen enough to this person? Did I ruin everything? And that has been a theme for me my whole entire life, especially with my father's dynamic, because he's such a perfectionist and serious OCD that was inherited to me. So like doing homework with him, if I made mistakes, I was in tears like most nights, and he would help me with my homework book because my mom couldn't, because that was just fucking trash. But so I was always in tears, and I was always blaming and shaming myself, and just because through that painful process I just like had so much perfectionism in me, and I see it come up like still. And so over the weekend it was dealing with that and thinking that I sabotaged myself because I wasn't perfect in something, even though I was expressing myself. I was like, it wasn't perfect because I didn't get the response I wanted, or just yeah, I don't know. It was like that, and just leaving the present moment.
Let's take a little deep dive on what perfectionism is. So why I'll admit to the same. I always wanted to do everything perfect, and there's this perfect path to get to XYZ, and by treating people, everybody nice, and making everybody happy, I was somehow going to please everybody, and everything was going to work out.
Yes.
And I very seriously had to look at that over the last little while, because perfect is literally the definition of struggle.
Yes.
Is what I'm finding out. Nothing is good enough. Nothing will ever satiate or make happy that piece inside that has to be perfect. So maybe dig underneath. What do you think's under there that's screaming for perfection so it can feel safe?
It's kind of just like finally doing something right for the first time.
And how many things have you done right in your life?
I'm sure I've done a lot, but it's, like you can have 100 positive comments, and then the one negative comment out of 100 could sometimes pull you.
Okay, so let's reframe. Do you realize what came out of your mouth? Yeah. I'm sure that I did something right.
Yes.
So you don't accept anything good?
No, I don't.
Okay, so let's fix that right here and right now. So did you have a career? Did you go to New York? Did you do these things? Did they all have some element of success? And then you judged yourself afterwards because it didn't work out to that proposed agenda that it was going to, that it was a failure.
Yeah, but even through that whole process, I still felt always inadequate. Like I would be working on the weekends, like at a coffee shop, 8 a.m., wake up Saturday.
And so something stole all your success from you, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And let's go look in the deep underbelly of all of that kind of stuff. So if you're like me, because I'm similar to what you're saying, I'll be happy about something and do something incredible. And then like half an hour later, it's like it didn't even happen. And I'm complaining about the next thing or worried about the next thing,
Yeah.
despite being on a high for 5 minutes or half an hour or
Yeah.
whatever. I did 2 different playgrounds for my kids' school. I spearheaded and project managed and did them all, and like 50, 80 pieces of equipment on this, and 100 people showed up with bobcats and machines and all this kind of shit. And I was more worried about doing up a commemorative plaque for all the other people to be recognized than I was to recognize that that wouldn't even happen probably unless I stepped up.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a big thing. What
Mm-hmm.
clothing did you create? What projects wouldn't have
That's true.
existed if Anya hadn't been there?
That's true. That's true. That's so true. But it's so funny. Like that's where like the conditioning takes me to is just focusing on this one little thing. But to just cap it off, because I don't want to dwell too much on this because we have so much to cover. The energies, like I saw the mechanism
Mhm.
come to play that was taking me out of the present moment
Okay.
and fighting
So
this.
that's what I would define as struggle.
Yeah.
So a fight constantly that never ends because you've been conditioned to believe you needed to please everyone and make them happy and have all smiling faces and everybody feel like they participated in the energy
Yep.
before Anya can be complete.
Exactly. And like a second factor was if I didn't do that, then I would be abandoned. And that goes again with my father. Like if I didn't please him, then I would be abandoned. So it was not safe.
So where did the abandon come from? Because a lot of young women might have a dad that never came home after going to get lottery tickets and really truly abandoned. But your
Emotionally.
father was just not pleased with your behavior in a form of love because he was trying to make you do better
Yep.
for your highest good, and you felt abandoned out of that. How did you come to that?
Emotionally abandoned. He would my father is very loving and kind, but if something doesn't go his way, then he turns off and that love is no longer there. Like he's like, don't
Well, he
talk
gets frustrated and walks away mentally or energetically.
physically. He'll walk away physically.
Okay, that too. Yeah.
But like that was always a constant theme in our dynamic as
Mhm.
well. Like I would always be emotionally abandoned by him, and then I would start crying, and he still wouldn't give me a hug.
Mhm. And do you think he was the first one in your family lineage that ever did that?
No, no, no. It's
He grew up
it's
getting that. And
yeah,
that's the way you got loved. And that's how it felt when dad was so pissed off that you weren't doing good enough. He literally took his whole love and presence away from you.
exactly.
So I think this is what people need to understand. There are different versions of trauma that are
Mhm,
used in our lineage over and over and over
mhm.
again. And I used to think that my home life was that something amazing and it was all just positive, pure and light and all this kind of stuff. And now as I've grown up, I'm starting to see the behaviors I have towards my kids and then starting to unwind them. And they have nothing to do with choices that I consciously made. It was like my father screamed at me for 3 years of my life about eating my veggies on the
Yeah.
plate and browbeat me and physically threatened me with violence and spanking and stuff like that if I wouldn't eat the peas on my plate. And I would sit for 3 hours until bedtime crying and screaming, and he'd be shouting. And I look back and it was like, okay, yeah, that was my dad trying to love me to get me to eat veggies and stuff. No, that was a trauma. And
Yeah.
I'm not blaming my father for that. He didn't do a bad thing, but that was in his family how you got a kid to do that.
Mhm.
And if I sat there as an adult now, I would fucking browbeat him into the ground and say, what the fuck are you doing? This is not reinforcing anything. Where's the reward? Where's the reason for moving forward? And I could go through and reparent that very clearly. I don't think my dad consciously knew that. And I'm not blaming him in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying he's bad. I know there's a million other people that are watching this video right now and saying, holy shit, that my father did that same thing to me or whatever. And I thought it was love, but now I have all this trauma. I can't be around people that scream or shout
Mhm.
or act violent because I'm reliving that trauma as a child.
Yeah.
And when parents refuse and they don't want to talk about the past and how things were and all this kind of stuff, they see they've healed, they've changed a little bit, and they don't want to look back at that time. but that's a part of me now. And if I can't talk about it, we can't have a discussion about it. Like, you really need to have a discussion with your father at some point and say, that really hurt when that happened. But more than likely it'll be like, well, that's the way it was, and I'm not going back in the past. Let's just pretend it didn't happen,
Yep.
which is very normal. So I need people to just be aware that these traumas exist in every family, no matter how good they were. You can see it all in love and light, and oh my beauty, and you grow up and you start to awaken, you look underneath, and you're going to see a whole bunch of codependents, their traumas, their family lineage, their shit smushing all over you. And just be aware, there's nothing wrong with it. This is part of everybody's life. But if you don't get a chance to talk about it, for it to be observed, and for it to be respected in some way, shape, or form, that's the hardest fact of awakening, is to look past it and say, okay, that wasn't them being bad to me or evil working through them. That was the experience that happened because of the lineage. And now I'm waking up to be aware of it. I'm going to speak openly about it, and it's going to be done.
Yeah.
It's not punishment. It's not you're bad or evil. You got to smarten up. What's wrong with you? It stopped right fucking here.
Yeah. To close that off, I kind of realized I've been kind of introspective, and because of all of that pain that I still have remnants of, I still have resentment for my parents, like for my dad, for instance. And so like I was sitting in the car with him. I helped him with something, dropping off my nephew. But like most of that time in that car, like it was in silence. We were sitting in silence. And I was
But
like, that's fucking crazy.
Do you really think you can heal that to his face? Or is that something you're going to deal with to his higher self, to your lineage, in your own time, when you're free and you're open, when you go to New York or whatever? A lot of these things can roll up.
Right.
But it's not a shouting match. It's not a fight.
No.
It's not anything where you're bad or you got to smarten up and repent for this. It's like, fuck, it happened and it's done. And I can see the higher part of it, the thing that grew me, that made me stronger. And I forgive it and I release it. And that's going to be the hardest part for most light workers and way showers to do, is to get past it and not feel that you have to be owed for it or that you have to resolve it face to face or to have some fight. Everything, the chasm between families right now is widening. And so many light workers are so sad that their parents seem confused and angry and all this kind of stuff. With the distance comes the time to heal.
Yes.
You are cleaning up the lineage, and they had no control over that lineage. They didn't come here to heal the lineage. They shared it with you, and you were born with the light to be able to resolve it.
Yes.
Whether or not the ones that are alive heal it right now is really up to them. If they feel more comfortable living in the old paradigm and how it was, then you can't change that. All you can do is you can jump them, heal the lineage, give them the option to heal it, and it will be done. But you're cleaning up hundreds of millions of people's lineage trauma for dead people that never had any control or any ability to deal with it.
Yo, and it's like the communist Russia lineage. Like Russia is so dark.
Yeah.
So it's like, oof. But no, it just kind of, in retrospection, it kind of saddened me that I took myself out. But I was like, wow, I literally sat in that car with my dad and barely said anything in exchange.
But you didn't know what to say. You didn't know how to deal with his stuff. You weren't even dealing with him. You were dealing with his parents and grandparents and all this kind of shit that weren't even there. I've got German lineage and French lineage and English lineage, all these just as dark in a whole bunch of different ways, right? Communism, and you're talking about, and we're talking about fascism and killing of Jews and all this kind of stuff that are part of those energies. And they exist, and they're part of my lineage, and they're part of my label, and I'm a man and you're a woman, and we all carry these root traumas for all of it. And I call them to completion now. That's how simple it is. It's like they don't need to exist in my right here and right now. And anything I'm going to do from this point onwards is from freshness and newness, not the labels, not the I'm German or I'm Catholic or I'm white or I'm a man. It's like I'm a human being
Mm-hmm.
and I am unconditional love. And there starts a fertile garden that magic can start to happen.
Yeah.
So look at that. Like, we're talking about being successful as a light worker, your ability to see under that and to deal with all of that, which could have crunched you and made you this small. And there's tons of women that are living with those same daddy issues in their 50s and 60s that still have those same daddy issues. But you got to see the light underneath it. You got to see it. You got to sit right beside him and you're choosing to heal it.
Yeah.
You could be bitterly angry, want to tear his eyeballs out and all this kind of stuff for the damage he did on your life and all this kind of stuff. And you're not. You're sitting here breathing and you're feeling all this energy and you're feeling all this frustration and unhappiness. And all we can do is just keep letting it go and letting it go, because it's like I literally feel that lineage trauma is like a demon. It's been created from all the frustration and anger and angst and the fact that people owed or whatever. And it's something that has to stay alive. So it keeps feeding off you. It keeps feeding off of Anya by making all the children feel this. Your sister probably feels a version of it as well. And that darkness feeds off of it. And the whole lineage root, it couldn't exist other than somebody created it. Somebody in your ancestral line had this happen once and it became part of being in that family.
Yep.
And it's propagated and it's got bigger and hairier and scarier. All the point that it was to you. And you're sitting there looking back at this demon and saying, no, right here and right now, I'm choosing to be a good person. I could be a hateful, angry, drugged out, whatever person hiding from reality, and you're not.
Yep.
But now you can see them. Your parents are only the jumping into your reality point of it, and it was really put upon them in the first place. So did anybody fail? No, they just got caught up in a web of shit that became a family lineage. And there's so much of it. Even like people that are like in the cabal and stuff like that, they're caught up in a family lineage, and somewhere back, great grandpa got in with Satanism or whatever the darkness was, and it's now went into every kid in that family because you're now having to be part of control and power. And they lost track of being human or of play and fun. It's all about taking so that they feel bigger and better and more important. Can you imagine how hollow that feels when there's all these lies and there's people being killed and there's people being just subverted to make them feel safe? It's insanity. So you just like love that inner child that never got the health and the loving it needed. So successful is staring that darkness and all that lineage shit in the eye and not being terrified of it.
Yep.
To see how dark all that stuff is underneath that everybody was victim to or just stepped in to be part of could crush you. But it doesn't now. It's like, I'm the light. I'm seeing it and I'm loving it, even though I don't like it and it wasn't fun, and saying it ends here.
Yes. Yes.
Because if you were hanging on for dear life and when your arms are aching and it's hurting right now, it's you hanging on to dear life that I got to be rewarded because this didn't happen, that didn't happen. I couldn't have relationships in the way I wanted. I didn't get money. I didn't get rich. You could blame every single one of those things and I'm not going to move forward until I get some money in my bank account or whatever. That isn't what saves the world or fixes things or improves things. It's us just being humble and saying, okay, this happened and I won't let it continue.
Yeah. Well
and
said.
you are the change.
Yes. Yes. We are the change.
Can you imagine the world your children are going to live in now that you see all this stuff?
Yo, I can't imagine that right now.
Well, I've got 3 already out of the hopper and I'm seeing them smile and them happy and them wanting the same thing. I was looking for the hell of it. I checked out my son's human design.
Cool.
And I don't know if you've ever researched yours. I'm a 3-6 manifesting generator.
I'm a
He's a
man-gen.
4-6 manifesting generator.
I'm a
So we're
man-gen.
sitting, you're a manifesting generator as well?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why we're bubbling with all this energy and we're creating from our experience and our awareness. And we're geysering light into the world from all these things, despite the world being pretty messy and crappy right now in a lot of ways. And I'm going to talk about that in a sec, but
Okay.
we are making light despite all this darkness around us out of nowhere. It's not like I'm having a ton of really happy moments that are making me shine and have bright eyes and happy and talk about this stuff. It's coming out of nowhere. I'm channeling divine light and allowing this process to come through me, just as you are, so that we can shine and put the sunlight on those seeds in the ground of other people so
Yeah.
that they can start to go ahead.
It
Sorry,
just
talking for a bit. Go.
it just feels really, I feel so relieved today that I was finally able to anchor back into presence and not be on that other side.
Right. So how do you think you're going to keep staying there, or feel rather than think?
Um, I mean, I've had a good run so far. Like, this was the first one that really took a few days to knock me out and come back. But just, you know, you got to stick to the rituals and loving yourself and
Did you make
reminding yourself about presence and, you know, having these kinds of discussions, putting it out there.
did you make a mistake when you fell in the hole?
No, 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 no.
So, but before that, you'd say you did, because I've heard you say, like, I got to fix this, or I got to get back to my practices, or I got to go see the wizard, or I got to go see whatever, right?
But it's not a mistake falling into the hole. Was more so judging like that I shouldn't have used that word in this text message or email, you know. It's those things that I allowed.
But it created a follow on
Yep.
that was hard,
Yep.
and you judged it as a failure or bad,
Yes.
when it was actually you finding out you and where the holes were in the way you understood before.
Yes.
So it was a really messy car wreck, but was it a failure ever?
No, never.
Because you're retraining yourself. You're going into your way you subconsciously respond, and you're ferreting out the things that are self-sabotaging, or you think hurting other people. But in a lot of times, you're not actually hurting the other people. You're creating an awareness of an energy that's unseen or
Yes.
unsaid.
And it's
And
not
you're
even
seeing.
self-sabotaging because I don't think you know you're human. Like, you say what you feel in the now moment. So it's never self-sabotaging. I think it's only
Mhm,
self-sabotaging when you start making it self-sabotage, you know, like
mhm,
criticizing yourself
mhm,
or harping on it for 2 days.
mhm,
That is when it becomes self-sabotage. And then you act from that space
mhm.
of, you know, that
I'm
will,
a failure. I keep fucking this up, and this isn't good.
yeah, and then trying to rectify it.
So now look back at every time you beat yourself up like that, and can you see that there's a lesson underneath that made you grow?
Yes.
Okay, so use that every time some freaking piece of shit shows up on your doorstep, and say, what amazing thing am I going to learn from this pile of shit?
Yeah. And that's the thing. We can translate this to the success thing even more, but
Mhm,
it's all just lessons, really. Like, success, yeah, there's a monetary thing that could be attached to it, but it is like when I was young, like, I had this conditioning that, you know, success would be the job and like be able to pay the bills and rake in a lot of cash and be stable. And like, I never realized that even with success, each step, there are lessons. This is all lessons. This is all learning. This is all for learning.
And there's absolutely no failure in any of it. Because a lot of times, if you didn't learn those things, how many times Okay, so your friend, the black lady from a little while ago or whatever,
Yeah.
if you wouldn't have went against your feeling of not going to see her, you wouldn't have been able to see the underbelly of the
Exactly.
vampirism or whatever we want to call
Yeah.
the energy stealing was, right?
Exactly.
That's from a past show, but there's a lot of people in our lives that are in for reasons because we are heart wide open and we were just hoping to have anybody be nice
Yeah.
to us, even though they were sucking us dry. And now we're getting to a point where it's like, nobody sucks me dry. This isn't going to ever happen again. And then you go and see them, and then you see that there was a darkness. Really, I just think it's a child that was there trying to
Mm-hmm.
feed off of other people because they weren't taught how to self-source.
Mm-hmm.
And you were getting hurt by that, and you didn't even know it because you thought that was friendship. That's how it worked.
Exactly.
So if you hadn't seen that, which seemed kind of dark afterwards,
That's so true.
so I humbly and always offer this to other people that the darkest dark is the lightest light, and you won't
Yeah.
see it until afterwards. So some evil thing, like I had a landlord that 3 months into my 12-month lease decided that I didn't belong in that space anymore. And I saw him as the epitome of evil and where the fuck is wrong with him. And I had to stand at the door and look in his eyes when he's serving me paperwork and burn a freaking hole in his forehead with my eyes because I wasn't going to stand for that shit. But the rest of the time I was laying in bed, just like terrified, like somebody's taking my home,
Mm-hmm.
which was like fucking evilly dark feeling to me. And
Yeah.
there's dark energies in my house and they're trying to make all these lies against me. And it took me 6 months of fighting to get the court case. And then the court case, all I wanted was moving expenses, and all the judge said is the lease stands, which was the darkest decision I could ever think of. Like I didn't get my money and I can't move. It meant I had to now stand up to that man because he didn't win. He didn't win the case. Otherwise, I would have been evicted right then and there. I actually won in this roundabout way. That was the only way the judge couldn't even award me any money or whatever. It was impossible. But I got to stand at the end of it. And after all that, he came back to me. He's like, you better tell me I got to move within 30 days. You better be out of that house. And I said, I am not leaving this house. The judge says I can stay here as long as I want. If you want to be awful to me or whatever, then fuck you. I'm just going to stay until the time of the lease is done. Or you can work with me and I'm going to go find a place and this is going to be resolved. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, yeah, you got the reins here. I had to take my power back.
Yes.
And I found my replacement place 2 days after that because the universe was pushing me to say and stand in my power. And I didn't want it, and kept going. And then I found out I had to. And it felt good, but I wanted to vomit at the time because we didn't realize we had that power. We gave this landlord's power above us and they can do whatever the fuck they want when no, they're fucking equal to me and we won't let this happen.
Yeah.
So that felt like evil attacking me sideways. But in the end, I can now stand in my power and sit here as a man and understand legal law about being a tenant and all this kind of stuff. And I won't stand for that shit.
That's a good perspective, actually.
But it felt really awful and sucky and made me want to puke. I could have called it the darkest dark, and now I can say it was like an enlightenment for me. It was like a baseball bat upside the head and said, stand in your power. And now I can look at a landlord when the realtor came and tried to tell me that he could come and show the house whenever the fuck he wanted. We had a come to Jesus moment. It was like, no, I'm not paying the same amount of rent and being out of my house whenever the hell you feel like it. We're going to negotiate some kind of fee back or whatever. And it was
cool
because we're standing in our power. We have power. Just because somebody has money, just because somebody owns the house or whatever, if you're meeting the terms of your contract and they're trying to change it and quote some law that's not even in the paperwork that you signed with the person, yeah. So that's what's coming down now, right? You're look at in your life, right? What? How many days away are you from going to New York?
3.
3. Okay.
Yeah.
So guess what? You're going to get to face all that shit that you dealt with out there and exes and these other people. And you're going to have a come to Jesus on all of it. You're going to realize how powerful you were and all this and how much power you gave away.
Yes, absolutely. For sure.
and being out of your parents' house, can you imagine how much come to Jesus there's going to be there? Because now you're not sitting in the energy of ownership and this is my house and my rules and all this. And now all of a sudden it's Anya and her power, being a powerful woman,
Yo,
you're 1,000 miles away.
I don't know what's supposed to happen. I am just in the unknown and just feeling good. Like I was a little nervous last week because I was in my head a little bit, but I'm just letting shit be what it is.
But you
I don't
carved out a
know.
space for that,
Yeah.
and you're allowing it to come.
Yeah. I just bought the ticket. I was like, you know what? I just had that intuitive hit. Like, okay, I kind of want to visit. Let me see what this takes me. Like, it's been almost a year.
So we're gonna have to get the podcast of Anya's progression on her journey. Cool.
I have no idea what's going to happen because going to this whole success things, I don't have a job.
Yeah, and you're eating up money, and I'm not gonna have as much money as I had before. And do I get a VRBO or do I stay with friends? And do I
did both because I realized, Anya, you can't be around people all the time. So you're just going to have to suck it up, put on your big girl pants, and order this goddamn Airbnb and be chill with it. And I'm like, okay.
So find a way to make some money on the trip and see what happens. Yeah, you wouldn't want to hear what my higher self just said, but anyway.
I think I heard what your higher self said because I instantly wanted a flash.
Okay. No, they weren't the same.
Okay, what was yours?
The term mule.
Oh God.
We'll leave it at that.
But so I don't want to get my hopes up. Like I've been telling myself it's okay, whatever happens. But I'm just at the whim.
Yeah. But that other part was your sexual freedom coming out, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I got an opportunity. I'm going to a sacred sexual event next weekend. So I'm or this Friday. So we'll see. As long as the world doesn't go sideways before that. But talk about challenging all the past wounds and all that kind of stuff and standing in my power. And I know all the stuff that came up. The person, well, I heard that other people have had the same experience from some of those people, and it's happened before. So really, it reinforces the fact that there was nothing wrong with what I did, and I've looked through everything in my experiences with that community, and I've been in so much integrity. I've got to look at every way I treat women or do my sexual healing work, and I've looked deep underneath it, and yeah, it's open to judgment from the outside, but the people that actually know, that participated in the event, we had long discussions and agreed to everything beforehand, and nothing ever went outside the box of what was agreed. But people can't possibly understand that when they tangle it up with their sexual trauma and their wounds, and they twist all the words and they twist what happened to align with what happened to them. And I'm not a person that happened to them. It's very easy to project upon me because I'm a nice, loving guy, and I'm not going to do that. But I have sat in more sacred sexual situations. I used to go to play parties and I just observe. And I'd see if things would show up or whatever, but I was never taking or hurting or pushing or projecting in any way, shape, or form. And I'm so proud of myself. There's a wounded part of me that was wanting and in lack and all that kind of stuff, but to sit there and to stand in that and not take or not go on that, it may help me understand myself. It's like, okay, why am I feeling this? Why is this thing not happening? Why is this other thing? And why is somebody else getting it? And there's so much beauty in exploring in situations where other people are naked or there are other things going on around you. And I remember sometimes the initiators of the parties would come up and it's like, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, everything's pretty well okay. And he says, well, I'm just waiting here for people to pop, is what he said. And I was just like, well, you can move on because there ain't no popping going on here. And to be able to sit in that and not be like the other people or not have it freely flowing to you gets you an opportunity to be really clear on what you want inside and what your needs are. And and to have those not spring up in the middle of a situation, but to just sit and sit in that, or to steep, I guess is the best word, just steep in that and then understand yourself, is so powerful. So, and I've come a massively long way, and I am in my power of what I am, and unwinding some of that stuff around my sexuality and other stuff underneath has been huge, because it wasn't mine. It was a lot of, sorry, we got way off track here, but it was a lot of the diatribe of women's wounds and what they expected men to be. And then I projected that on myself, and I made that me, which it wasn't really me. It was just me trying to validate and make them feel safe. And I don't need to make them feel safe. I need to be really safe in my body, and they will approach, and some beautiful things will happen based on me being confident in me and being authentic and not being in lack and not being in lust or any of those kind of things. Just it's like, let's negotiate a playground, and we'll set that playground up, and we'll see what shows up. We're going to use yeses and nos, and at the end we're not going to be attached or strings or whatever, because this is exploration. And how many times can you get to a place where you can go and explore? And that'll be a rush for some people. Other people, it'll be just like terrifying. It's like, well, that's not boundary, that's not safe or whatever. No, two people that are in conscious yes and no, stair-stepping along the way, exploring and going to depth, that's the most powerful place you can ever get to. So.
And that's success too.
Huge.
Huge.
I know who I am.
Yeah.
And I'm ready. So.
To carry on about the whole success as a light worker thing, like, yeah, like, even like when I was joining this community, like I felt like, okay, well, let me get clients so I could at least earn something by using my healing powers, whatever. And like, so there was like a little bit of this pressure built from like, okay, well, let me make these videos so I could try to get clients and come up with an offering to them and do all of these little things. But like in my core, I'm like, I don't want to do that. But like at the time I had a coach, and he was pushing that on me. And then like when I would be like, I don't want to do that, he's like, that's just your programming saying that. And I'm like, no, like I just,
true light worker doesn't want to charge anything. They want to be supported by the universe. And they're not being given permission to let that happen. Let the balance come from not having one-on-one balance, but from universal balance showing up. Because how many people show up that have no money or are a light worker and they're not really rich at all? So all of a sudden it's like, no, can't help you. You're not worthy enough because I need to pay my bills, and this is how important it is. And you want to vomit.
But so it's like that whole thing I was confronted with when I was awakening to more of my light workingness, and just like completely accepting like that I am not the definition of American success, you know, and I'm so happy, because that's what success means to me, is happiness and like being in the moment.
How much as a light worker are you giving right now? Just by having these conversations and this depth of vulnerability.
All of it.
Wide open, exposed on the screen. Here's the shit. And that's a gift to people. And I don't think I really think our videos are going to be really eaten up after all this stuff comes down and all the truth comes out, because people are going to be pushed down a path, and they're going to be, they're going to have a lot of spare time on their hands, and they're going to want to awaken. These will be gold, but they're not being taken as gold right now because they scare people.
That's okay. It's a marathon, not a sprint, baby.
Absolutely. So we're leaving breadcrumbs with these conversations every time we have one, of what we saw underneath. And we're going to give people the opportunity to listen to these as many times as they want. They're going to say, oh, that's how the family dynamic works. This is how dad pressures are. Here's how mom pressures are. Here's what wounds are, what traumas are. Because we just take them in our hands and we say, okay, this is how it was, and this is how it is. And we just keep unwrapping them until it's there. But to swallow that pill, call it the red pill or whatever from the Matrix or whatever, to say that, yeah, the love that I've been experiencing has been a controlled, conditional, unhappy, sad, secure, keep me safe, protect me love, which isn't really the love, unconditional light that God thinks. Because
It's draining. Go
if
ahead.
you could get, if you were giving self-love to you in that same way of protecting and whatever, you'd be smothered,
Yeah.
because that's your most unconditional love you've ever had. Anya's great exactly the way she is right here and right now, no matter what dad did or mom did or ex-boyfriends did or whether her hair's nice or whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
That's unconditional. The unconditional love and the thing that makes Anya special is her ability to go into vulnerable and look at every facet of her life and not hide from it and not feel ashamed. Oh, I got daddy issues. I'm 30 and I'm still feeling these things or whatever. We all do. Just wait until you get to 51. You're fighting them through. And people are at their 70s
Yeah.
because that's the life experience of being 3D.
Yes. 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 Yes.
So okay, let's tear it down. So as a success in 3D, what are the things that you've been taught?
You go get a college education right out of high school. You get your degree, you get a 9 to 5 job where you
Okay,
have benefits
let's
and
let's tear those down while we're going through
okay.
them. So the education is so you can be safe and make lots of money, right?
So you're hireable, yeah.
Exactly. And then yes, you get into the job and you have 9 to 5 benefits, which creates safety. It pays for
I
your house, pays for your
Yep,
food. Now your parents don't have to worry about you as a
surviving.
liability. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You get the benefits, the health care. You go out Friday nights with your friends and colleagues
Mhm.
or
And get
weekends.
drunk and
Yeah, so
blah
you
blah
have
blah.
your activities with your friends where you get drunk and you do things with them. So that is the Saturday, Sunday, or Friday, Saturday, whatever. That's the cycle, and then
So
you do
until
it
you
again.
eventually find a spouse out of that, because
And
that's
then right, yeah, that's the next part is that you finally get the spouse, and then you are like on a 2-year trajectory, and then in like 2 years you get a ring, and then you have this ring for a little bit, and then you do wedding plans, and then you get married, you get a house, and you have a baby, and you work till you die, and you have
well, you get
vacation.
2, 3 babies, and then you get the car, and then you get the trailer, and you got the vacation home,
Yeah.
and then you wake up one day and you realize you're on a treadmill. You have $5,000 a month in payments that you got to do, and if you don't make enough money to pay those, then everybody's going to die because
Yeah.
your children aren't protected. You, as the man, you're the primary safety person
Yeah.
because we're the breadwinner apparently, and we got to go and slave and whatever to get that all done, bring the money home. Mom's slaving away at home trying to raise these children and make them good people, feed
Yep.
them well and breastfeed them and all this kind of shit. So all of a sudden these insidious little programs are just tearing you apart. So really,
Yeah.
where is a spiritual person in any of that?
I mean, there's church on Sundays for some families, but
Mhm.
that's about it. Or Shabbat on Fridays.
Give your 10 or 20% of your tithing so that the church is taken care of. And
Yeah,
yep.
so the pastor could keep living up on the hill. But that's about it. And then you start making friends with other married people, and then you do
Mhm.
married things together and go to
And
events.
you keep your head busy so you never awaken and you're
Yeah.
completely lost in the dream.
So you're pretty much describing my sister, but yes.
Absolutely. I live all the way right to the end, get a divorce, and then it all comes crashing down around you. So,
Yeah.
where was you in that other than getting a promotion? What kind of car you bought? What the house looked like? What sports your kids went in? And they all self-defined you. And you get to the end of it, and it's like, okay, yeah, there's these things that we thought were fun and playful. We went on vacation to Disney World, and that was
Mhm.
10 days or whatever, but you saved your whole year just to be able to afford that $6,000 for hotels and flights and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
that's the highlight of your
Your
time.
year.
Exactly.
That's so sad.
And the rest of the time you did shit for bosses that you didn't really care about, and you
Yeah,
chased around and worked late, and you said you were working on weekends and shit,
and you're
all to
hanging
get
out with
ahead.
And you're hanging out with friends that you don't even like,
And you're
probably.
spending thousands on alcohol, cigarettes,
Yep.
marijuana, mushrooms, or
Clothes.
whatever to escape because you hate your reality.
And you can't admit it because that would just contradict, the last 25 plus years of what you
As a
invested.
percentage of most people's day walking fully submerged in 3D, how much is really true happiness? When you laugh with other people and you really let your hair down, in my experience, it was less than 5%.
I agree.
Everything else was get the laundry done, make supper, go mow the lawn, do the grass, do this, do this. There's a constant laundry list of stuff you never caught up on because they all reciprocated over and over and over again.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so you're just in that cycle continuously, and you don't even realize it, and then like you completely neglect your body in the process of
Mhm.
it. You're probably eating more shittier meals and not exercising at all, and you start noticing those deteriorations, but you take a pill to fix
You,
that, but then
you get to 60 and you got diabetes and you finally finish your job and you have nothing keeping you busy and you die 5 years later.
sure,
That's a typical human experience.
that's the American dream right there, baby.
Yeah. And most of the time, by the time you were going to go on vacation and you put all off until you retired and stuff like that, a lot of the people that I see do that did it for like a year and then they got sick and then they couldn't go anymore. And then all of a sudden they curled up and slowly completed. A lot
Disintegrate.
of people are going to say, what the fuck? You're calling down the whole life experience of life. And
That's
I'm
not it though.
it wasn't. Where did you have the time to think for yourself, to go and sit and lay on the grass and really feel safe? All the people that are doing it now are the hippies or the young millennials or whatever that don't want to work or whatever, and they're getting called out sideways because we invalidate everything that everybody else's experience was
It's not, if
nutritional.
it's not going with the status quo. So
Yeah, and
you're
it makes
automatically
them,
lazy.
yeah,
You're lazy, you don't contribute to society,
you're a failure.
you're a failure, and
You're a, what do you call it? Like
you know the word I'm thinking about. I
a
can't.
leech on society.
Yes, that's the one.
I can just picture it, right?
Yeah.
But those are also the thinkers. Those are the ones, the philosophers. We're literally philosophers in our time. We're talking about what's underneath it. And this constructed reality isn't supporting any of us. And we're all very angry and we're very frustrated. And once we dig underneath it, we're going to find out there's a slavery there that we won't admit.
Absolutely. I mean,
We're
yeah, it's
feeding a
hard.
machine that we didn't agree to, we just born into.
Exactly. And that's very hard for, I think, a lot of people. What are what
Oh, Yvonne just said it's in every country the same. Yeah, I'm agreeing.
absolutely. But let's at least, like, I think in Europe there might be a little bit more of a joy de vivre. Did I pronounce that
Yeah,
correctly? But because, like, they have breaks, where they rest.
siestas and stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
the culture has
siestas.
built some of that back in.
Exactly. And like it's so much more livelier, and like,
Uh-huh.
they go out with their friends during the evening time to like catch up, have an aperitivo if you're in Italy or whatever. And like I felt that more when I was over there. Like
Uh-huh.
there was a more of that zest for life rather than in like American culture where it's
Yeah,
40
but we're
plus.
we're the new world, and everything was re-engineered in a different way in North
Shit.
America to to be those things, to feed the systems, and all the money went back to Europe and all those
Quotas.
places. Yeah, everything.
Yeah. A lot of our monetization is, in Europe.
Mhm. So digging underneath all of this kind of stuff, us being successful or shining light or looking happier than other people is really a challenge to everybody that did it by the system and they
Yes.
don't feel like they've got ahead. For a good example is I did everything right. I put 20% of my income into RRSPs or whatever they call it in the US. And
ROIs.
yeah, your retirement savings plans or whatever.
Okay.
And I did all that kind of stuff. And I waited 20 years and I did everything right. And I had an investment advisor. And we got to the end of it. And I got him to say, okay, how did we do over the last 20 years? And he computed the numbers and his jaw bounced off the table. He says, it's zero. And I'm like, what do you mean? Compound interest and all this kind of stuff didn't help me or whatever? He said, it's the first time I've ever seen it. It's zero. What you put in is all you have in.
What?
And I'm like, I was just like, what the
That
hell?
makes no sense.
But there was control underneath and other shit going on. And oh, we invested in all the wrong things. They had all the excuses or whatever. But even I moved my money to a different investment advisor. I think the same thing was happening because I knew
Holy
money
shit.
is different and it wasn't this magical thing. And I didn't have faith in it that it was all going to just sort itself out. Where do you fix that? Like that would be a death sentence for my retirement right then and there. And then since my divorce, I've had to use a lot of my retirement savings to live off of. You put COVID and shit, and
Yeah.
every single cent has to come out. And nobody's going to sit there and say, oh, well, you did something wrong or whatever. No, the system failed me. And really, I'd have no money. I'd have to work at Walmart and be one of those 75-year-old guys at the front door or whatever, because the system failed me. I did everything right, but a bunch of rich people took profits out of the things that I invested in, even though I trusted people and all this kind of stuff. And nobody, like, for a rich person to make tons and tons and tons of money, how many poorer people have to be stepped on for that money to get? It's not like the money just appears from nowhere. That's taken from somebody that's lesser, that doesn't have the same investment, doesn't have the same knowledge, and then they profit.
That's wealth. Yeah, that's wealth.
It's fucked. That's what is considered okay. But that's why there's $43 quadrillion being stored by Kabbalistic forces that you couldn't even ever spend. So is that wealth or is that now slavery?
Slavery, for sure.
Massive slavery.
Yeah, that's crazy. Like, I do think about that. I've always thought about this where, like, I would need to work a 9 to 5 job to pay for living. And if I didn't have that, then I would be fucked.
Yeah. So then you get in a fight or flight all the time. And in the end, how many times have you seen it where the taxes, the rent, the cost of utilities all always just rose right when you're starting to get ahead, and then all of a sudden you were just like, oh, I'm behind the 8 ball again. I gotta just make more money. I gotta work harder. Or and then there's no way to catch up. And then eventually one little stumble and you fall behind, and then you're
the whole thing sinks. Yeah.
Next thing you know, you're in the drop-in center because you have no money and you just didn't know what happened because you couldn't juggle all the balls.
Yeah, and so many people, especially in America, live check to check. I mean, I was one of them. Like, I had enough to pay for rent and utilities and all that shit. But after that, with taxes being taken out.
And I got to the point, at one point in my life, I made $160,000 a year, which was really good as an engineer. And I thought I was getting ahead. By that point, I was in a 55% tax bracket. So basically, they took more than half after all the deductions and all that kind of stuff. And it was actually worse to get ahead because they'd take more and I'd actually make less money.
Yeah.
Because the system was designed to do that.
Right. And you're not just providing for yourself, it's like a whole family.
Yeah. Well, there's ways with businesses and other things where my taxes aren't nearly as high, but now I have to be in this unsafe zone where I'm not in a place where I have a pension or health benefits or whatever. Yeah. And then anything like this COVID shit, it's been designed to take out the middle class.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, probably 75% of my income from my business disappeared overnight through something that I couldn't. And I wasn't even paying for a restaurant. Can you imagine paying a $10,000 rent when you've been forced to be closed? How many of those can you take in your pants? Well, the landlords don't do nothing. So success is mangled up with a whole bunch of bullshit in an unfair playing field. Because a landlord, I'm more and more often starting to believe they're part of this elite ruling class. I owned another property, so you're my vassal, like the Baron used to be. And you can only do what once I started to see some of the tenant law, it's all towards the landlord.
Of course.
It's all about the landlord can set whatever rules or whatever, and he doesn't even have to have paperwork on stuff for you to not be okay. So when I made that win, when the landlord or the judge said he upholds it, that's the only fair ruling that I could have got, which didn't aid me, didn't change the fact that he was changing the terms of the lease, even though he signed it. Yeah, life situations happen. How easy would it be for a landlord to come and say, hey, shit, my other house fell through. Can I work with you instead of paying all this money on lawyers to fight me or whatever? Give me that to help me move to another place. And it would have been done and there would have been no fight.
Yeah.
We both would have won.
Yeah, creating win-wins.
Shit happens.
Shit does
So
happen.
success is not based on dog eat dog and climbing over the pile just because another person is underneath you and you just happen to get and breathe fresh air on the top. The world teaches us that that's all there is. There's only scraps for everyone. There's no abundance. It's all lack and it's all chasing, and it's not. Our success is inside. We
Yes.
see underneath. We see motivations. We see people's intentions. We see all this kind of stuff. And it's not like gold in our pocket, but it was never to be that. But you can create a really deep friendship with a person almost instantly because you're pure and you're integral and you're wanting the best. You're wanting win-win for people. But the minute you're working with people that don't want win-win, it's always got to be win-lose, and I got to be the winner to feel good about myself. That's a hollowness. That's a trauma response. That's that person begging for something better. And we're not recognizing it as that. We're recognizing it as you're wrong and I'm right, or whatever has to be so that somebody always feels better than someone. And there's a middle ground for everything.
Yeah, yeah. And that's how life goes, you know. They have that phrase, but it's like, no, that's not how it goes, maybe, but a lot
It
of
happened
this,
in the past. Let's make a new one.
exactly. Let's construct it, reconstruct it.
Well,
But
that's go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, with success, I think it's, from my understanding now, like pivoting forward, it's not my productivity as much as what value I could bring and how I could be of service by just being myself.
And to dig under the root of that, it's the amount of consciousness and awareness that you
Exactly.
embody in everything that you do and how you make
Exactly.
decisions. Because
Exactly.
so much of the success is based on the robotic, compliant, sheep
Mm-hmm.
metaphor that we're all living in. It's like, oh yeah, get your job. Oh yeah, chase that now, chase this, and you're constantly chasing, and everybody's chasing at the same time. So you're sitting with friends and going to the bar with friends that are all in the same chase, and you're talking about this hollow shit about jobs and how bosses are and all this kind of shit, and you never really get a chance to sit and really think about life and what's really means
Yeah.
anything, and you're lost.
But, and also, you know, that you bring up the attention thing, and that's so powerful, but like, it's so scattered, you know, with cell phones constantly checking shit. And then on top of it, when you're in a 9 to 5 environment, there's like Slack channels, you have meetings. So it's like you're doing all of these little micro things, and you can't really focus on the big thing that you are skilled at, that you know you could like ramp up the value, but like you got to check Slack, then you got to you want to check your Instagram, and you know, blah 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 blah. So like all of these things are feeding on our attention and really actually, I think, doing a negative.
Look at all those social media. You are now cavorting with a bunch of really mixed messages and a lot of people that are negative and trolls and stuff that are just crashing your your hopes and dreams because you're being judged silently through all these mechanisms. It's just a mirror of where you're stuck in a lot of times, because that's the kind of
Yeah.
people you're going to bring into your life, and they're going to not validate you, and they're going to eat you all the day long.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. And just like even in the workforce, just like, you know, there's Zoom meetings,
Mhm.
always talking. And how much of it is actually you being able to do your work?
Yeah. So your work time for most people is 9 to 5. How much of that 9 to 5 was eaten up to the point that you didn't have lunch, or you stayed late after work, or some of them were in the evening, and then you had to do your day-to-day work all once you got home, or stay until 7 at night, because you were feeding that entity of the business to be successful, to get ahead, to get a promotion, to get more money. Is that not slavery? You're
Dude, it is.
feeding your boss. You're feeding all these people with traumas and shit, and don't give a shit about who you are. They're on a power trip about you and all this kind of stuff. And you're just constantly being devoured by those bosses that got into the control and power. I've seen many of them, and they just go on feeding frenzies. They just love to fuck with you so that you feel all pissed off and
They eat
confused.
your energy. Yeah.
Eat your energy.
Yeah, like all of it is just like eating your energy. Like I had a flashback. It's like, okay, I get there 15 to 10 minutes before 9, and like I'm there, and even though like maybe I don't feel inspired, I have to be there until 6.
Mhm.
And then I have to take transportation that like commuting, let's say that's 45 minutes, but I'm so like a whole hour, so like I don't get back till it's like 7. Then I have to make dinner and
Mhm.
then do preparation for that. Okay, that leaves me with 2 hours because I want to go to sleep early so I can get enough rest to do this shit all over again.
Yeah, and then you got to spend an hour getting your hair ready and making a nice breakfast and maybe go to the gym. And
Yo, I don't even do that shit. Like, I didn't even have time for that because I was like, sleep is so much more important than looking nice.
well, you set a priority, but how many people, I know women that are like rolling
Yes.
their hair and they're an hour and a half to prep so they look sexy, and they got to
Yes.
shave their bikini line because they might get laid tonight, or all
Yes.
this conscious, unconscious bullshit of feeding. I couldn't imagine being a woman with all those pulls, and I feel for them, and I see it. For men, it's like get out of the shower, whether you put mousse in your hair or not, and put some underarm charm on, and away you
Yeah.
go.
No, all dudes need is like a nice white tee and a nice watch, and they're good.
Well, it makes it easier, but so the success is your own self-judgment. And when you start to really get down to it, what is really success? And if you put all those things as better than you or whatever, you're always going to be in struggle.
Yeah.
So as a human being and as a woman, I see Anya as a success. Absolutely. You're looking nice, you take care of yourself, you have really good opinions about yourself, and you can speak deeply about energies in this world.
Tell my parents that. They'll be
Who
like,
gives
what
a
are you
fuck?
talking about? I'll be like, this
They
bitch.
are aliens as
I
far as you
know.
are, because the planet that you live on judges heart openness, vulnerability, ability to deal with deep traumas as powerful.
I know that. I know, but like trying to
Can
explain
you
that.
ever be you and love you if you don't let that go?
No.
So, how much of your struggle is tied into that statement you just made?
All of it.
Wow. And then tie that to relationship.
Oh
What
God.
statement would you say of why you're not in a relationship right now? And how much is that a struggle?
Insecurity, a lot of all of it.
Okay, so why do you need to be secure if you know all this stuff about the world and it's not centered on any of that stuff?
I think it's just like releasing the conditioning of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So can Anya feel really safe right here and right now without a partner, without parents,
Oh
without
yeah.
all those things? So there's a piece that's there, but the other piece is still hooked into the self-judgment.
Sure. Yeah.
You got taught that. Is it bad? It's protecting you.
Yes.
If you don't have this reality to hold on to and you don't fit in it and need it, you're always going to be judged as broken, because if it's not broken, then everybody around you is broken. And you know what the truth is. So you're showing a new light. You're showing a new paradigm. We're creating a new reality where what you have and what you've done, and same with me,
Mm-hmm.
is fucking powerful, because you went through and dragged your forehead and I dragged my balls through glass to prove to myself that there's something wrong here.
Right. And to have the courage to admit that and really dig deep to the real truth of, God and angels and all that shit that we don't see, and the spirituality is the actual fucking truth.
So were you successful in finding that?
Indeed.
Is it recognized by anybody else or anything other than the small percent of the population as gold? Is it gold for everybody else? No, it's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why aren't you complying? Why are you making me feel uncomfortable? Because
Yeah.
you haven't been following what the priest said, and you can't do this and you can't do that. All your freedom, all your thing is like absolute contempt to who they are.
The system. The matrix.
You know? So it's pretty hard fought what you learn.
Oh yeah.
Would you give it up? Would you want to comply to beat the
No.
system anymore?
I never fit in. And
No.
I knew that from the get-go.
But you jumped on the train and you tried and
I
you
did,
rode as
yeah.
hard as you could and you face planted into the muck when COVID came.
Mm-hmm.
You were a middle class that lost your job and lost all that security and now have to come home and live with your mom and dad, and it looks like a face plant.
Mm-hmm.
But it gave you a lot of time to go deep and understand yourself and see the world and shine light and know.
Absolutely.
That's why I
Absolutely.
keep saying that this reality isn't for us, because we
It's
are
not.
in contempt of everyone else by just living who we are.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It just doesn't mean that I have to participate in that.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Um,
I'm not sure how to do it on this timeline. So I really, really feel there's people that have split the timeline off, because how much effort are we putting into struggling against that when we should really be putting it into new structures and new ways of reality that are in congruence with the people that have woken up? And I really want people to understand that if you're feeling messed up and not successful and a failure, trust creating a new reality inside of you. Get in a place where people are vulnerable and self-responsible. The living your light community we're talking about is people joining together in this new congruence to themselves and rising above it. And I don't even think the 3D people will even see us anymore once we choose firmly to be in that new awareness. Because this feels so hollow. It feels so messy. It feels so dark. And I understand, and I don't want to hurt the people in my life that aren't understanding it in the same way. I just want this for me, and I want them to feel what they're safe with. But I can't change to make them feel safe. So all I can do is keep being me.
Exactly.
And we're doing it. We're doing it every day. We're being ourselves. We're not calling anybody out saying these are a bunch of idiots, these are bad, these are whatever. I feel it sometimes because there's a lot of idiotic energy that's continuing along.
Yeah.
So know that you're successful. Know that if you're calm and you're present and you can stand inside this storm, inside this insanity, and just feel really peaceful and sit there and just breathe, know that you did something right. Because I'm going to tell you right now, the other people that are outside of this are getting more and more anxious, and they're just looking for any place to let this energy go on because everything is so confusing. The bottom is falling out of reality, of
Yup.
truth, of all this stuff, and they don't know what to do with it. And we are just a lucky nearby receiver of whatever their vent is as reality starts to shift. And that truth is going to come out, and they're not going to know what to do.
I know.
But I'm not to blame for it. I'm the one that's shining the light so that we can all find a way to something better. And if you want to grab cricking and screaming and all this kind of stuff, you cannot participate in my life. You're just going to fall off the edge of the ship, and you can stay in the water where you're choosing to be, not mine. I'm not going to hold on to anybody that's not willing to be really brutally honest with who they are and why they're doing things, because that's not our role. We're not here to please everybody. We're not pull them all on board because we're family or whatever. No, you got to get that awareness yourself. And trust me, for the last 10 years of my life, I've been screaming what that reality is. And if you didn't hear it, sorry, I'm not going to speak it again because you smashed me for being that. So success is that inner calm, that ability to say, oh shit, my doorbell's ringing.
Uh-oh.
Oh, it might be my son. Can you finish that topic for 2 seconds? I'll just make sure it's him.
Success.
From your perspective.
Oh gosh. Um yeah, I mean, truth be told, I think success is ultimately just being yourself and finding a way where you could provide a service to the world. And, at the end of the day, you feel like you're actually doing something and, you're feeling valued and all of that. But it's been on my mind also. Like, I'll look at a few friends and I'm like, oh, like that's so cool, they got their shit together. Like, they can be freelancers and just they figured out how to get their clients and they can charge 1,000 a day and like they get to pay their bills, and that's so great. And I'm like, fuck, like I don't know how to do that.
Are they really happy though?
I think some are, yeah.
They carved out a niche that's on very shaky ground and called it success.
Yeah.
Do they have all their shit together? Is the rest of their life, their relationships, their all this kind of stuff really going well?
I mean, maybe like I like the friends I'm thinking about, yeah, like they have their relationship with a good person and
Mhm. If the
they
economy went sideways or some other thing came along, that could be shaken in an instant.
yeah,
So is it true inner peace, or is it just them saying that I got somewhere and they carved it out, so it must be worth something?
maybe.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's all crazy.
But you also look at those people that have supposedly got it all and they're run off their feet. They got so many clients, they got to be running and chasing, and their timetable isn't theirs. They they have all this structure, they're busy all the time. Do you think they really have time for themselves? I don't see a lot of really balanced enterprises coming together. There's people that are going to call me wrong or whatever, but there's so many people that think they got it all figured out.
Hmm.
What it's all figured out is you doing what you want to do in every moment of every day and not having to chase money and pay bills and have the nice cars and all that kind of stuff. Um, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we're trying to meet somebody else's expectation and to pay the bills. And if the bills weren't there, how would it be different?
Oh my gosh, way different.
Would you have safety all of a sudden? If it wasn't revolving around money that you had food, would
Survivalism.
would you be in fight or flight ever? If dad doesn't bring home the whatever, we're not going to be able to eat. How many people do you see dying on the streets? No, there's all these systems that like the food banks and all these kind of things that catch those people. But yeah, there's some people in lack, and there's some people that are close to the edge, and they're not able to do it, and then they're judged poor or they're bad or they're not successful or whatever. It's not true. Some of those
Yeah.
people that have little money and maybe can't get a job or whatever are some of the most heart-centered, beautiful, loving people, and their happiness doesn't come from buying things and boats and cars and stuff. It's about family stuff.
Yeah.
So we're chasing. And why are we chasing? Who taught us to chase? Who taught us that this is bad? This time of going inward of COVID has taught us to be self-reliant.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. And that your worth isn't tied in with your productivity.
Are you going to go chase back to all your friends now that you've seen them truly for who they are? No, most people are going to be really selective in who they welcome into their life after COVID.
Absolutely.
So there's a new success, right? Now we're not just chasing to fill ourselves with people. We found the hollowness. We found where they were feeding on us, and now we're clear.
Mm-hmm.
So don't get stuck on success. If you're a light worker, there's no measure in this world to assess how far you've come. All I can say is if you can ground yourself and you can get back to health and centeredness in this world the way it stands with all the darkness and other things, that's the biggest success that you can have. And right now, if your body's hurting and you're feeling a lot of energies that aren't yours and you're able to breathe through them and help them pass through your body and forgive your old stuff, your family traumas, all these kind of things, that's fucking success. Because those are
Yeah.
the hardest things you're ever going to do in your life, is to see what's underneath.
Yes, to peel back.
And once you see underneath and you can still smile, and you're more likely to smile now because you're not trying to please and other things, you're going to be you're a success. So let us tell you right now, I can see success in Anya. I can see success in all the people around us because they're doing the work, they're being of service, they're not worrying about me and how I'm going to get rich out of this or how this is all going to work out. That will all come when the world's back in balance. You're going to have all the abundance you need. Your food's going to be paid for, your bills, your house, your everything is going to be yours. So you don't have to chase. You don't have to fucking fight anymore or struggle. You just breathe and you
I
see what
agree.
shows up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree. Like the whole chasing thing, I think that's also been so heavily programmed is
Mhm.
chasing to acquire, doing things like sweating, gritting your teeth, and just constantly blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
But it's not that at all.
And how many times this is I was going to talk about this earlier. How many times do you go on Facebook and there's some person on there telling, oh, you got to do it this way, and it's all about struggle, and you gotta push hard and all this sort of stuff.
Hustle.
And I just want to fucking slap them. Or I got it all figured out. Oh, some people are just so zen, and it's like, oh, I have this self pleasure practice, and I do this and do that, and it's not magic. It's not all everything's good. Trust me, you're doing everything perfect no matter what you're doing. And your process and everybody else's process is different. And they don't know better for you. They may be able to give you some clues, but don't chase every day. You're going to wake up in the morning. And it's like, what do I got to do today? And how am I going to get this done? And maybe I
Yes.
missed something. And maybe this isn't why my lover of my life isn't showing up, or the job, or the money, or the whatever. And you'll kill yourself thinking that all day long.
Hmm.
Because that's the system saying, doubt yourself all the time. Well, I'm getting more and more and more every day into self-mastery. And self-mastery, I wake up in the morning and say, everything is perfect and everything's going to show up in my life, whether I like it or not, that's going to help me make it more perfect.
Yeah.
And then there's no doubt in it. It's like, well, could I have done that better? Or maybe she would have come back to me if I would have
Right.
prostituted myself a little bit and agreed to be what she wanted. It's like, no, that dream person is going to show up in your life when you're really crystal clear on what you want and what your needs are, and you're very clear about it up front instead of hiding it and pretending to be someone else, because otherwise you're not yourself. And then it isn't perfect because you're trying to guess what's needed, and it was never meant to be that way.
Hmm.
So over and over and over time, do you see as people when we're not honoring ourselves and then we let ourselves down and then we're confused? At least I can get to the end of the day and say I was truthful and honest in what I needed and what I wanted, and if it wasn't compatible with them, then they weren't the right fit.
And that's okay.
And that's all you can ever be. Anything else is a lie, and then you're trying to meet their needs, and then it looks hollow, and then they hate
Dude.
you.
Yeah. And then you hate you.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
success is standing up for yourself and in every moment asking for what you need, not because society said this or this is what mom and dad told you or whatever. This is what I need to feel fulfilled. I need people around me that are vulnerable, can be have depth and intimacy and communication, so that the real truth of what's going on can be there, not I think you meant this by what you didn't say. And then we're all screwed up because somebody's then hurt because they didn't understand what wasn't said. And it was said. I said my truth. If you weren't okay with that and you didn't respond to that, then that's your loss. And I can't understand you unless you tell me for now. And then maybe I'll read your energy eventually,
Yeah.
but not yet, because there's been so many lies in each other's energy. That's the
Yeah.
male female dynamic, relationship dynamic. All this kind of shit is don't say what you want, but hope they'll have it, and then judge them for not having it because you didn't say it.
And then just pretend to be what you think they want you to be.
Yeah, and then you're hating yourself all the time. You get
Yes.
10 years into a marriage and you're finally tired of
Oh
the
my
lie.
God.
And there's this big lie that's been there that nobody ever talked about.
That's so insane. Oh shit. That was literally like the last relationship. Just two people pretending to be what we thought the other person wanted us to be as perfect as possible and all that shit. But it wasn't true. It was just false.
And then at the end, you couldn't even talk about the lie because that was too hard to, and everybody had not met the lie. So everybody was unfucked, and the relationship fell apart.
Good times.
Mhm. But now you can see it, you can smile at yourself, and you can say, no more.
No more.
Yep.
Damn, this was beautiful as always.
Cool. So we are successful as light workers. If you're probably listening to this probably resonated hugely. We are all successful. And all those hurts and pains and things that are banging into our head are the very things that are bringing forth the unawareness so that we can get it into awareness and heal it.
Yep.
And then when we make future decisions for ourselves, it'll be from consciousness, not subconscious, and we'll
Yep.
get more and more of what we want.
Exactly.
And then we can manifest. Do you think you can even manifest in all that shit?
No way.
No.
That is the block, is all of that gunk that's
Mhm.
been unseen, unhealed. That's the block.
And it's all twisted 180 degrees. And no wonder it doesn't show up, because we were lying to ourselves about what we wanted. We didn't really even know what we wanted. We were trying to meet the societal norm, and we failed, but we didn't really fail. Thank God they didn't show up, or else it would have been 10 times worse.
Yeah.
Nasty. So we got this. We're learning every day. And if this resonates for anybody or they have questions, I sometimes get people calling me afterwards and saying, okay, yeah, I don't know this, or this didn't work out. Just text me. Sometimes the insight that's needed is just underneath.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thank you,
and
Paul.
same with Anya. Give her a call and see if she's got a different perspective. She's got the feminine perspective. So mine may not be the same for women as for men, right? So
Yes. But thank you. This was so wonderful, as always.
we're shining the light, and we're getting the darkness and the shadow all out of the way, so we can all move forward.
Boom.
Thank you, Anya.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
Paul.
day. Thank
Bye-bye.
you, everybody, to listen. Have fun. See you later.